Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. I am your co host, Roel Dionisio. Glad you could be here for a brand new episode. And I'm here with our co host, Francois. How are you, Francois?
I'm very good, Roel. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's early morning for me. I had a trouble waking up just for this recording, but glad I could wake up just in time for this because I feel like we haven't recorded in a while, and a couple of events have already passed, and so now we're here to talk
hmm
about them, which is WLPC 2025 over at Phoenix. And I wanted to hand it off to you to share kind of your experiences with it because I wasn't able to attend, but you were there, you presented, and you saw some other presentations as well.
Yeah, so this year, WLPC was taking place in Phoenix, just like it's been for the past few years in the US. And it's nice to record today with you, Roel. I got a lot of feedback from people. They're like, "Oh, when are you coming with new episodes?" So I know people are, listening to us. So it always feels good to get the feedback, and it pushes Roel to wakes up early and record the episodes.
Yeah, I feel like we need
Um,
to get back to some very technical topics, and I think we'll
mhm,
get there pretty soon. I know you and I have been pretty busy, but we have some experiences to share in the
mhm.
upcoming episodes.
Yes. Okay, so WLPC this year, I think it was the biggest ever. 400
Mm,
people at least, even more.
wow.
Yeah, so the room was pretty much at capacity. If you've been to that Phoenix room, it was pretty packed with I would say over 100 people or 150 maybe new attendees. So it was nice to see. Um, I felt though I didn't have the opportunity to talk to everyone I wanted to.
Yeah,
So this is,
400's
I
a
mean,
lot of
this,
people.
yeah, 400 is a lot of people, and if you've been to this event for a few years, you know a lot of people, so it's hard to catch up with everyone. And it's even harder. I found it was even harder for me to meet new people because
Yeah,
you're just trying to catch up with the people you know already.
yeah,
So it was interesting, but it's nice to see the event growing. It's still the same spirit, the nice Wi-Fi community spirit of everyone having the same goal of wanting better Wi-Fi, pretty much. So it was really nice. One thing that was new this year was the open roaming. So they deployed open roaming. Um, and so if you had like an open roaming profile already on your device, or if you had a phone, a device from AT&T, I believe was the provider, or they also gave us like a QR code where we could download our own profile, then we could automatically connect to the
yeah.
Wi-Fi, and they had ubiquity access point inside the hall, and they had missed access points outside of the hall
Okay,
to
so
with open
multi-vendor,
roaming,
huh?
multi-vendor open roaming, and it worked quite well. I know
Wow.
last year, they deployed eduroam, and all of
Yeah,
the eduroam people were like, "Oh,
yeah.
nice, we have
Yeah, I
special
was one.
treatment."
I was one of the individuals. Yeah, I got
Yeah,
6 gigahertz all on my own.
exactly. So this year, it was a little bit, more widespread. And then at the end of the conference, Howard, which is the guy who set up open roaming, he came back with some stats. So if you're
Okay.
interested, you can go back and watch that video. But they had, a few people connecting to open roaming. I was definitely connected on open roaming. I had the
Yeah.
profiles already on my laptop, on my phone. Um, and that made a huge difference,
Okay.
especially on 6 gigahertz. Like, you know 6 gigahertz is really amazing. Like, you don't really worry too much about capacity or anything like this, even in a room full of like 400 people.
Yeah.
Um, and I was doing this year, I also tried to um, be more active on LinkedIn to kind of report on what was going on
Yeah, I
during
saw
the
that.
event. Yeah, for the people who were not attending, that
Yeah.
was kind of like my goal.
Yeah, a little bit
So
of missing out for me. So I
yes,
was able to follow your feed as I was working here back home. So it was good to
yeah,
see like what was happening. And Drew also posted some really good photos. Drew Letts.
yes. So yeah, I was pretty much at the front taking pictures. Drew was at the back with this like a
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
camera,
And
and,
your photos
and
were
then
really good too. I think both had great quality.
yeah, mine it was like an hit or miss. I think I at the end I kind of I got the process, but yeah, Drew was definitely really nice, and he also published. Maybe we can include it in this in the show notes, but he
Yeah, and a
included
link to
like
the
a
photos.
like a gallery of all the pictures he took.
You know,
Um,
what's interesting about the WLPC is how we're able to eat our own dog food this time, right? Like we always
mhm,
preach about good Wi-Fi, and when we go to a conference, the Wi-Fi is horrible. But the last two, um, WLPC has been able to put up their own Wi-Fi and then even do things like edge roam and open roaming. So it shows that like what's
mhm.
capable as a Wi-Fi engineer, and you could do it too, even for an event.
And also, not everyone is using open roaming, even if you're operating a Wi-Fi network. So the fact that you go to a Wi-Fi conference, you test it for yourself, you get introduced to it. We also had a great talk from Fernie on open roaming. It also gets the right people interested about the technology. I know we've been talking about it for years now on the show, and we've tested it and in our own environments. But it feels like there's like a little bit of momentum behind the technology, and it's great to see. And for events like WPC, it's amazing. Like next WPC you go to, you don't have to worry about anything. You already have the profile. You just connect. And yeah. So that was something a little different this year with WLPC, and then I also found that the level of presentations were was really good this year. I
Yeah.
was actually amazed with how good all of the presentation were.
Hmm.
Um, which was really nice to see. You really see people take a time to prepare what they want to talk about, to do some testing. They come prepared, and it's so it becomes very valuable. You go there, it's I mean, you have to focus a little bit, and it's mentally draining, but you feel like you learn something.
Yeah, you got some
Um,
takeaways when you leave the conference, and
yeah.
the first presentation that I watched on yesterday when I started watching the videos was Todd. And I remember when Todd didn't get a slot last year, he actually got the spotlight, and I
Hmm.
think it was around the same topic. So I saw him do the spotlight. I was in the room, and now he finally got to share and also improve upon what he was building last year. And I thought he
Hmm.
did really good. His presentation was much more polished from last year. He felt comfortable on stage. He presented a really good example of what you could do with APIs.
Hmm. And it's exactly the same thing that happened to Charles Clare from Australia. Last year, he didn't get in. He did the spotlight, and then people were like, "Man, this is amazing!" And
Yeah.
then they voted for him. And this year, he had like a slot, and same thing. He kind of presented about the same topic, which was how to design Wi-Fi for exams in his university. But since it was like 1 year later, he kind of presented on the upgrades that they did this year for this year's
Yeah.
exam, using the takeaways from last year. And he presented the pictures, the what went well, what the students do sometimes that's not expected, and it was really nice. People really liked that presentation because it was a real world experience, and not something that you do every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, so this is really, and I haven't seen the spotlight presentations yet. I know you have some. I've seen that on the YouTube playlist. But this is a good way to be able to get a speaking slot if you're interested in speaking at these events. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good way to practice and get yourself shown out there so you can get the speaking slot for the next year.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so the presentations are now available on the WLAN Pros YouTube channel, so you can go over there and you can bench watch all of the WLPC if you want to. Um, Trust me, they're really good. So you can go and pick and choose what you want. Here in this episode, I'm gonna highlight a couple of the presentations. I would say that they would be like my personal favorites, I would say. even though I found like a lot of them are really good. So I would just encourage you guys to go and look at them for yourself. But the conference started with a presentation from Jerry Olla. And he did a lot of tests around roaming, and he presented his results, which was really cool. And then he was also talking about the challenges of testing roaming and what he did to make it work. And what it ended up doing is he took two APs and then he used some scripting to increase the power of one AP while decreasing the power of the other AP, and kind of simulating that back and forth. And the client in the middle was kind of roaming automatically because the powers were changing. So I found that was quite interesting.
What type of client was he using in the middle?
Well, you have to watch the presentation
because I have a very similar issue.
He used a whole bunch of Wi-Fi clients, but I think and he presents the results. But his core of the testing was to better understand 6 gigahertz roaming. So he did roaming tests with 6 gigahertz clients. I should mention that. And he wanted to know, okay, what happens if I'm using the default settings? What happens if I'm using 20 megahertz wide channels on all bands? What happens if I'm using like a wider channel band on 6 gigahertz? What happens if I'm using 11K? And so he did all of these different iteration of tests, and then he presented the results. So to answer your question, he did it on Windows, Android, iPhone, Mac OS. I don't remember exactly the devices top of my head, but he did a pretty extensive test, which was quite impressive. Yeah. So that was a pretty good start to the conference.
And so then he was the first presenter?
I think he was the first presenter. Yeah.
Way to set the stage there.
Yeah, way to set the stage. Yeah, that's what I thought. Exactly what I thought. Yeah, and then we had other interesting presentations. I remember David Coleman. He did a presentation on the evolution of spectrum analysis. And what was interesting with his presentation is that he took screenshot of some spectrum analysis and he put it in ChatGPT. And then he talked to ChatGPT to do some analysis, and he was able to get some pretty good analysis using ChatGPT for his spectrum analysis.
Wow. So there you go.
So maybe that can be the
goes
premise
back to our very old episode about ChatGPT for wireless engineers.
Yeah, and it could be the premise of what we'll see maybe in some of our toolings in the future. So that was very interesting. Then we had a couple of presentations on real world deployments. So I mentioned Charles Clare from Australia, which was really nice. Firas Shaari, he presented a real world example on HaLow Wi-Fi. So that was pretty cool. He set up like a HaLow AP on his house, so in front of his house, and then a relay on top of his car. And then he was playing like a video. He had like a little video camera. He was playing a video feed over that link. And he just drove around in his neighborhood and measured some data at different distances. So that was a good use case of, this is another Wi-Fi flavor that you could use for some different use cases. And it was pretty cool. Then it also makes me think of presentation for GT here, where I mean, GT knows how to present pretty well. It's pretty entertaining, but he was introducing wireless technologies, and his story was, okay, I'm going to take you from the field where you pick up a tomato up all the way to the store, and we're going to follow the tomato, and we're going to see which wireless technologies are used in the meantime. So it was pretty cool. Like, he did it in a pretty nice story, and at the end, someone delivered a tomato to him. So that was pretty fun. I forgot who it was exactly.
To him on stage?
Delivered to him on stage in a plastic bag. So it was pretty cool. Talking about another entertaining presentation, Peter McKenzie. as always, right? He's
Yeah.
pretty much the entertainer, but he did like a presentation on packets. I would say, I'm not going to say too much. I'm not
Shocking.
going to tease too much. Yeah. um, but he did it. He did it in like the in the like alcoholic anonymous way, but he called himself the packet junkie. So it was pretty funny. He set the stage in a pretty nice and entertaining way. Um,
He could set
yeah, that
himself to be the David Blaine of Wi-Fi, just
yeah,
magic and Wi-Fi.
he could snap and disappear, right? I'd be like, where's um yeah, so that was pretty cool. Also, from some presentation, I took away like a couple of things that are like makes you think a little bit. um I remember a presentation from Jake Snyder where he talked about MBSSID, and he was saying
Oh,
that
yes.
when you do a survey, you might not receive the information that you think you're receiving looking at the beacons and the MBSSIDs. So saying that survey data might be lying to us.
Okay.
Um, so that was quite interesting. It kind of makes you
Oh,
think about,
yeah. Makes me wonder if it's
yeah,
the way that our tools are collecting the data or listening for the beacons.
yeah.
Okay.
So he kind of talks about this in his presentation. So I think for anyone doing surveys, this one is important to take a look at. Um, and then going back to the real world examples, Mike Atkins from Notre
Mm-hmm.
Dame University, he talked about deploying 6 gigahertz outdoor in the stadium. So
Okay.
that was also
Yeah.
pretty cool because you don't have a lot of outdoor 6 gigahertz.
Yeah. Because you
Uh,
need standard power for that.
yeah, exactly. And what was funny is that Kiss at the end was mentioning that Mike he submitted his talk before they even had Wi-Fi on his stadiums. So it's
So
like
he was
an example.
banking on making it, having that
Yeah,
project complete before WLPC.
yeah, man. And then if I'm honest, that's the way I do it too. I submit the talk and then I prepare the presentation, right? So you don't. That's just to say that you don't necessarily need to have something to talk about to submit the talk. You can just
Yeah.
submit something you want to talk about, and then if you get
If people
elected,
vote
well,
on it, yeah.
you have no other choice than to do
Yeah.
it.
Now you got to do the presentation, but at
Yeah,
least it's a topic that people want to hear about, and so
yeah.
you could put a couple of different topics, but just be prepared that more than one might get picked.
Hmm. Yes, yes, that's a risk. um, Jim Forwick from Cisco, he also talked about designing Wi-Fi in high density environments. So he was taking a lot of example from the Cisco Live conference, the type of APs they use. That was interesting, even though it was not 6 gigahertz specific yet. It was quite interesting to have his point of view. um, and then a couple of other presentation also I really liked. One I think is in my top three is from Rosalie Bibona. She works for Extreme Networks, and she explained what it takes to build an enterprise AP. Right, and we don't hear about this,
No, we don't
on
hear
our
about
end.
the internals of the
Yeah,
AP and how it's built.
yeah, the internals, what goes into decision making, what are their challenges when building an AP. And this was like, I was like, whoa, she's talking about all of this. Like
Yeah,
it was
and
like
where is she from?
Extreme
Okay,
Networks, I want
okay,
to say.
cool.
Yeah. She works with David Coleman and
Yeah,
Metka. Yeah. So so yeah, it was really interesting, and she was like putting information that usually you don't see, like cost of goods
yeah,
sold, and she giving numbers, and she was like, our challenge in 6 gigahertz is XYZ.
yeah,
Why don't we see dual 6 gigahertz or whatever?
yeah,
Like she was like giving like a lot of information that we usually don't see, and so it
yeah,
was like kind of nice to see that. I was like,
yeah.
wow.
That's definitely beyond what I know with
Hmm.
hardware. So that's one I'll look out for to watch next.
And it also helps us to understand why sometimes we see certain type of APs, um, and and they have to they pretty much have to balance, okay, what's the requirement, what can we do technically speaking, how can we make it work with power, with heat, and all of these different things that we don't really think too much about. It was very interesting, very interesting. And then we had recently Ventev got purchased by Hubble, which is also the company
Yeah.
who owns AxelTex. So now we
Yeah.
have AxelTex and Ventev under the same umbrella. So Dennis Burrell and Connor Burke, they decided to present together.
Yeah.
And it
The
was really nice
competitors come
because,
together.
yeah, the competitors, partners. So they presented, and it was really cool because it was like they were talking about antenna misconceptions,
Oh, okay.
and then explaining what people think is happening, and then explaining what really is happening. And so it
Mm-hmm.
is, I think it's going to be a presentation I'm going to share with some of my customers, because
Mm-hmm.
it goes over a lot of the basic question that we often get,
Yes.
about antennas. So that one is definitely one to bookmark, and reuse. And it's because it's not that they don't expend too long on the topic. So they go over,
Mm-hmm.
like, I forgot, maybe 10 misconception, maybe 12. I can't remember exactly.
That's a lot.
But it's, yeah, they cover quite a lot of data. Yeah. So anyway, the list of presentation was really good. Yeah, the level also was really good. We got a couple of non-technical presentation. The one that stick to my mind is the one from Lee Badman. He
Uh-huh.
was talking about how can you coach your a wireless engineer. So I think he was more talking about, let's say you hire a new Wi-Fi engineer, how do you coach
Yeah.
him to become the person you want it to be? And so he had
Okay.
a lot of interesting non-technical aspect of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So that might speak to you very much, since you work
Yeah.
for university just like him. But a lot of the stuff spoke to me as well, because it was not just technical; it was also like, just human behavior, and how to behave yourself, and what's important to succeed. And so it was very interesting talk by Lee. Yeah. So anyway, a lot of good presentation. Wes talked about different type of APs, the difference between a 2x2 and a 4x4 AP, for instance.
Yeah.
What difference does it take? And he comes back with data and to support that. He kind of did that presentation a few years back, but he revisited it today.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall it was really cool, really good event. And then as always, they had the deep dives.
Mm-hmm.
So for myself, I was helping animating a deep dive with Andreas. We talked about how to build a Python lab to do some
Okay.
automation. Yeah, which was really good. Like the lab material that Andreas created is amazing. We had for
Yeah.
more than the 2 sessions of 3 hours. um, and then yeah, so the students, they did what they could well during the deep dive, and then they can take it home, continue their work. Everything was
I
pretty much in the, yeah.
I wish those were recorded, the deep dives.
Yes, I guess
I
that's
know
the
it'd be
value of
hard.
it.
Yeah, it'd be hard to record all of them at the same time, but yeah, it's the value of going to WLPC is being one of them is the deep dives and the events after the conference,
Yeah,
like
the
after
the
the
deep dive,
sessions.
like for us, for instance, I don't think you could record it, because we prepared like the deep dive, so it was more like a lab. So
Yeah.
you're just giving the lab material, and then you do it at your own pace. You do the
Yeah.
sections you want. So there's not real value to record it. And what we were doing with Andres, it was just helping people out. Oh, something is
Mm-hmm.
not working. Okay, let's see if we can make it work. And that was our
So
role,
it'd be
I
boring to
guess.
watch, basically.
It would be very boring to watch. Yeah. But
I
they
guess
had,
maybe
they had,
like post something about, hey, here's a deep dive we did, and then I can go
yeah,
through it.
yeah. Andreas put his stuff on GitHub. So
Okay.
he was very generous of that. So people can find on GitHub. this, but this year they had new deep dive. I don't remember exactly everything that was new, but I remember they had one for GPS. So they did a deep dive on GPS.
Okay.
I believe they did a deep dive on OpenRoaming, or maybe that was a boot camp on OpenRoaming. So they had a couple of new deep dives this year, and then they had the regular, WNPi and drone and all of this that people like. So
yeah, the drone one is very successful.
yes,
I did
yes,
see a video of someone doing Wi-Fi surveys with the drone and the challenges they ran into. So I thought that was an
yes,
interesting video.
yes, indeed. There's this video out there. Yeah. So anyway, WLPC as always was really good. I didn't have the chance to talk to everyone. We did with a group of, I don't know how many we were. We did go up to the peak in the mornings to watch the sunrise, which is pretty
Oh
nice
yeah,
if you
yeah,
go to
that's great.
Phoenix. Yeah, yeah. And then yeah, so it was pretty nice. Oh, and one thing I didn't talk about is the Wi-Fi awards. So
Yeah.
WLPC in Phoenix is when they announced the results of the Wi-Fi awards. So this year, let me just quickly put it up and tell you what happened. But this year we had the results. So the Lifetime Achievement Award was given to Jim Flowick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
Then, yeah, it was well deserved, indeed. Then the Content Contribution Award went to Stephen Orr.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then the Innovation of the Year and the Company Leadership of the Year went to Juniper Mist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Juniper Network. And the innovation was the Juniper Marvis Minis.
Okay.
And then the Product of the Year went to Hamina Live.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I've used Hamina Live.
Yeah. So it was, it's good. The award is good. I think it's nice that we have that in the industry.
Yeah, I think it's good, and it helps people. For those who, if you're like me and François, like contributing to the industry, like you and I are former winners of the award. Actually, mine's right here still. There.
Yes. Mine is right here
Yours is
too.
right there. Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you get yours, François?
2020.
Oh, it was right after you, 2021.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's rewarding, right? It's cool, like to show that the work you're putting in, and you get a little award for it. But we do see a lot of new and upcoming people who are contributing quite a bit. So I think for the next one, I will nominate a few people because there's some really good stuff out there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the point, is anyone can nominate people. So actually, this year I was surprised to see my company in one of the
Yeah, I
category.
voted
I
for
was
you.
like, I was like, I didn't put my
No, you're
company. So
putting out
people,
stuff.
yeah, but I didn't vote it for myself. Like I didn't
Yeah,
register to be
somebody nominated you. Yeah, so that's
somebody. Yeah,
someone people loves your stuff, and even the
yeah,
content you're putting out right now, François. It's possible that you can get nominated again for contributor of the year.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I would prefer other people get it right. It's not fair. I'm thinking, contributor of the year. I'm thinking of Shetiel, because all of his videos he put out there are pretty funny.
Yeah,
And
well, I think
I can see him spending nights working on this stuff. So
yeah, I mean it's all about for us. It's about just putting value out there, sharing what we know, and part of it is talking about what we just learned. Right, it becomes sometimes a just in time learning, especially for the episodes that we publish or the blog posts that we do. Is we need to learn something, we write about it, so it gets better for us in our mind, and we present it in a way that if we could present it to somebody else and they can learn from it, then we've done all the learning we could on the topic. But it helps a lot in work and what you do. But I encourage others to do the same, even if you're just posting on LinkedIn or on X, wherever you want to do it, or even TikTok. That's where people are doing it now. and then you can get nominated yourself if you want to get the award. And all it takes is one person to nominate you, and you're on the list, and people could vote for you if they've seen your stuff.
Yeah, so they I think the next round will go at the end of this year, but well, we'll try to talk about it when the time comes. Yeah, so that was pretty much it about WLPC Phoenix. There's another one coming up in Prague at the end of the year.
Yeah.
If you guys are interested. And we'll try to see if we can cover that one as well. I don't know yet if I'm going to be going. Roel, I don't know about you.
Yeah, I haven't bought plane tickets yet, so I'm not sure.
Okay. So so we'll follow up with this, and and then last thing, we invite you guys to go watch out the playlist. We'll put a link in the show notes on YouTube, WLAN Pros. You'll see Phoenix, the Phoenix playlist, and then tell us which presentation is your favorite, why, and then we can keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you, guys. Bye.